All right, it's 7 o'clock, so I'm going to call the Monday, September 25th, 2023 Select Board meeting to order. I have the clerk, Aaron Underhill, Ellen Rosenfeld, our vice chair, and Craig Schultz, I'm the chair. So we have an agenda tonight. We have a lot of items on it, so I'm going to jump right into our announcements. We have two announcements tonight. First, the Millis Public Library is celebrating 40 years of the Friends and 10 years in the new building on Saturday, October 14th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There'll be a 10 a.m. welcome, reception, and kickoff. There'll be children's music at 11 and proclamations and special guests at noon. My two colleagues are talking about attending. I'm at my niece's wedding in Vermont, so hopefully everybody has a lovely time, but I'm going to miss that one. There's scavenger hunts, there's memorabilia, there's memorabilia of the Friends for the last 40 years. There's a lot of cool things the Millis Public Library has available to loan. We borrowed a metal detector once. So they just don't do just books. Second announcement is we have the Prospect Hill Cemetery Stroll. This will be run through the rec department, and it is on Saturday, October 14th at noon, rain date the 15th. You can register at millisrecreation.activityreg.org. And this is $10 for all ages and $5 for seniors, 65 plus. All right. Now we're on to approve and sign the community aggregate energy letter.
And actually, Bob Weiss has an announcement too,
Thank you.
right?
In
The
my notes.
MDT 3A,
Mr. Chairman.
yes.
Thank you.
We
Just
jumped
quickly,
right
last time I was here, I had mentioned that the 3A MBTA rezoning maps were being proposed. We have three scenarios that are being proposed to the town, and we were going to do that in the survey, and I understand that that survey will go up on the town website tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay.
So, we encourage folks to take the survey, as that is going to help to shape the zoning future of the town. So, thank you. That's the announcement.
Great.
The letter.
Yes.
Tonight, I'm asking the board to sign a letter of support for House Rule 3852. As you know, Millis, or Empower Millis, is our community aggregation program. We are part of a larger 25-member municipal electrical aggregation program that provides Millis residents with lower cost energy supply. As we speak, the members, the Millis residents and businesses who are members of the aggregation Empower Millis, pay about 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour for their supply. Most of Eversource's customers are paying about 16 cents per hour. So there are 2,400 families and businesses that are members of Empower Millis. Well, these electrical aggregation programs have to go through, the Department of Public Utilities. They present the plan to the DPU, and it is up to the DPU to approve these plans. And they're supposed to do it in a timely manner, but that hasn't happened in about 3 years. Gradually, over the last 3 years, somehow they have managed to take what used to be a 6-week process of approval and turn it into about 1.5 years. So this bill, which is now before the Senate and the House, will return the DPU process to a more reasonable timeline, such as it used to be before. So we're asking you tonight to sign this letter of support, and hopefully we can get these aggregation programs approved in a more timely way.
Thank you. And the aggregation price is just phenomenal. I mean, I buy electricity, and we have locked rates for a few years, but this is a very, very strong rate. And it's just on the supply, it's not on the, I'm sorry, just on the
Yeah, the
supply, not on the delivery.
Right.
So that fluctuates with market, but the supply is, this price is great. I know some people opted out, but the majority of the town, I think, stayed in. I encourage anybody who's not in it to get into it if they still can.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a great price.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I'll take a motion on.
Okey doke. I move that the board approve and sign the community aggregation letter dated 9/25/23 as written.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to sign the community aggregation letter dated 9/25 as written. Any discussion?
Nope.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll sign that after the meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All very much.
All right. Next, we have some appointments. I think we have 2 appointments, but one's for 3 different people.
Yes. Mr. Chairman, in the board's packet is a memo from the fire chief. Due to 3 of the call department members having left, 2 because of accepting full-time firefighter jobs in other departments, and another that is retired. There are 3 open positions in the call department, and after discussing these with the chief, and upon his recommendation, I'm appointing Sean Kubaki, Ryan Smith, and Damian Benitez as on-call firefighter recruits. And I would ask and request that the board vote to ratify my appointment. The candidates have all passed Corey, their driving history, agility testing. The only item left is to undergo a physical examination by the town's physician. So I request the board's ratification of those appointments.
Ready?
Yep.
I move that the board vote to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Sean Kubaki, Ryan Smith, and Damian Benitez as on-call firefighter recruits, subject to successful physical examination results.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Sean Kubaki, Ryan Smith, and Damian, I missed that one,
Benitez.
as on-call firefighter recruits, subject to successful physical examination. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Aye.
And just as a note, they are considered recruit firefighters until they finish the firefighter academy, and then they'll come back and do an actual pinning with the chief.
All right.
And Mr. Chairman, the other appointment is for an acting lieutenant. One of our lieutenants is out injured on duty, and therefore I'm requesting that the board ratify my appointment of Brian Polomeno as acting lieutenant until the return of Lieutenant Scotland, and that appointment take effect immediately.
I move that the board vote to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Brian Polomeno as acting fire lieutenant effective immediately.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Brian Palomeno as acting fire lieutenant effective immediately. All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, that was the business. We're on schedule, so that's good. And this is where the schedule stops being a critical issue. We're going to give you guys plenty of time, so don't worry about that. So I'd like to invite our Tri-County School Committee, School Board reps up to the microphone. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if you would allow me, I'm Pete Berube. I'm chairman of the Millis Finance Committee, and I'd like to call our meeting to order. With me tonight, we do have quorum. It's Kathy McGinnis, John Lohr, Joyce Boyardi, and Michael Crone. And I'm not sure if there's anybody else online, but appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks. And we can move the squash off the table if you have more people that want to sit there. Just feel free to distribute them to anybody interested. Cucumbers. Yeah. Oh, cucumbers. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, thank you for bringing us back to Millis. It's been a little bit of time. Dr. McGuire wishes she could be here. She is in Washington, D.C., lobbying some changes to OSHA regulations for students, so she couldn't be with us.
I don't know if we wanted to tip it a little bit, so the audience can see it. Do we want to tip it a little bit more that way, since they
Yeah.
have it in front of them?
Yeah.
You want me to sign, Charles?
Watch the back.
Not off the table.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
No, that's not on the
It's
table.
gotta come a little,
in the back.
Yeah, in the back.
There you go.
All right.
We just leave the input.
could go a little
I do
more.
technology.
I
Why do
see.
it without him here?
See, never touch something once it's working. That's
I
the
know,
first
I know,
rule.
I figured if he was here, I would be kept good luck.
First rule of IT, if it's working, you don't
There
touch
it
it.
goes.
I guess you can't put it in presenter mode
Yeah.
without it breaking, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right, no, that's fine.
They're doing something funny, though. What is that?
That was interference with one of the wires.
Look at you.
It's touching electrical
You don't need
something.
anybody.
Yeah, what is that?
Take the IT geek out of the.
Right.
Oh, well.
Okay, thank
Go
you.
with- go with
Thanks
it.
for
Go
attending
with
tonight.
it.
This is as good as it gets, so, yeah.
Happy to be here. I'm joined this evening by Brian Mushnick, Chair of our School Building Committee, Jane Harden, School Committee member and the Millis representative, and our great principal, Dana Walsh, sitting with us tonight. So we just wanted to go through a brief PowerPoint presentation, open it up for questions. I'm sure there are many. So Tri-County, your regional vocational technical school. We have 11 member communities, going all the way from Millis all the way down to Seekonk. We have 16 vocational programs, 2 post-secondary programs, and the school's been in existence since the mid-late 1970s. School was built in
Built
1970.
in 74, opened first day September 77.
Millis has 38 students as of 10/1/22. That number will change in the next counting on 10/2/23. There we go. So this process started, after several years, we were accepted into the MSBA pipeline in December of 2019. In April 2021, we were formally invited into feasibility to explore options for a new or a renovated school at the same site. So we've moved through these steps, and the highlighted number 5 is where we are right now, and that is funding the project. Our scope and budget was approved by the MSBA, the Mass School Building Authority, on August 30th. So we have 120 days from that date to secure a vote. And it'll be a district-wide vote that I'll talk about in a little bit. So this process is it's a long process. If you look all the way to the right, it'll be 2028 before this project is finalized. The STAR, again, that is where we are. We have the MSBA board vote, and we are going to seek approval for a new school to be built on the same site. This is kind of a conceptual drawing of what that would look like. The school would be built behind the existing school, which would be least disruptive to students and learning. It'll be a 3-story structure. Our high bay shops, auto tech, plumbing, electrical will be on the bottom floor. First floor, and we're going to integrate classrooms with our vocational programs. That's in our education plan. The 3rd floor will be, additional classroom space. This new building will have dedicated entrances for customers. We have customers for our cosmetology, early education, culinary arts. We have a great restaurant. Hopefully you get a chance to go out there and visit that. Right now, when you built a school in the 1970s, security wasn't on the forefront of everybody's thought process. So, patrons will enter the school, they will check in with our security guard, but once they're past that point, they're, in the school proper. So this will have dedicated entrances, and those shops that the customers will frequent are in one location of the building. So once the building is constructed, the old structure will move the students in, hopefully in September of '27. Then we will take the old school down. So the vote process. So in our district agreement, it's a district-wide
I'm
election.
sorry, the open
Yeah,
date will be September 27?
2020.
2020.
No,
Yeah.
it's completion,
Yeah.
Completion.
When do the students move in?
year
Yes.
before. No, they're growing out. So go back to the.
Yeah, I just want to get the dates right, because, and more importantly, when will the
Build.
cost
Students-
hits? Thank you.
Students will be in fall of 2027, a completion date, which is grow out of
Right.
fields and
Yes, the
tear down,
final.
destruction of the
Right.
previous building.
Yeah, thanks.
So this district-wide election is in accordance with Chapter 71, Section 16N. It will take place on October 24th. It'll be noon to 8, and it will be the same time in all 11 communities. And the way this will work, think of all 11 communities as just one big community. It'll be the folks that come out, the voters that come out on that day, and it's simple majority, all 11 communities counted as one. Simple majority, 50% plus one will be the deciding factor. From there, once approved, we will issue debt. It'll be a 30-year bond. Debt repayment is based on October 1st enrollment, so that will fluctuate year over year based on student enrollment in each community. There is an assumed 5-pupil minimum for our capital debt assessment. So it's a town like Sherborne, who currently has 1 student, they will be paying for 5 students. So the project scope and budget approved by the MSBA, $285,992,692, just shy of $286 million. It's a little fuzzy, but you can see, Millis is about 4% of the total enrollment, estimating, totally estimated yearly debt based on the 10/1/22 enrollment, $482,371, or on a house, an impact to a household, $500,000 value would be about $135 a year. So I know I went through that very quickly, but I did want to leave time for
Thank you.
questions.
I'll just add a couple things that we're doing. We've also scheduled a second vote that day for a debt exclusion. Every project we've ever done in our town, you have to vote if you want it and if you want to pay for it. And in this case, it's if you want it. Implication is you have to pay for it. So we believe that, between $400,000 and $800,000, as enrollment fluctuates, it could easily be up to $800,000. But of impact to the town should probably be covered by a debt exclusion of some type. So we're asking that vote on the same day to see what the people think. It'll be 2 separate ballots because we can't roll it into this one. Unfortunately, Chapter 71, Section 16N was written well before Prop 2.5 and well before and it's never been addressed. So I think that's a big issue that we need to look at for the next ones down the road. It won't affect us any. Just letting you know we're going to do that vote. Just any questions down this end? I'll save my questions for later.
Not right now.
Okay. I guess my question goes around reimbursement rate. It seems like 85 million on 286 is about 30%.
29.2.
Did it in my head. I'm going to round to 30, okay? Give you the benefit
We'd
there.
like to get 30.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the benefit of 30, okay? And if I did the math right, that means there's about $125 million of expenses that aren't reimbursable, because I think your base rate was like 53%, and then it worked your way down. We've done the elementary school and we're doing the high school, so we're very familiar with these reimbursement rates. I'm curious what makes up the stuff that's unreimbursable, because that's really, I understand the need, I understand the services that are provided, I understand everything about it. I have issues with the way the funding mechanism is driven with Chapter 71, 16N, but I am not one to beat my head against a wall on something that I can't change, so I'm accepting of that. But to me, it feels like that the cost, the attempt to minimize unreimbursable cost may not have been there, and that's why I'm curious what makes that up. Because when we built the elementary school, we had a 40-something% reimbursement rate. We kept our gym, we cut bleachers, we cut everything in that gym. It's like 1 square foot literally over the minimum size they'd reimburse for the gym. So we cut every corner to keep it at the exact reimbursement rate. We didn't tile the bathroom walls up to the ceiling. Kids are only this tall, so we were still okay. But we were very conscious of how we spent the money. So what are the unreimbursable costs that are hitting this thing?
So the unreimbursable is a huge list.
Yeah.
It's also a point of contention for us. So a number of years ago, we had to put a roof on, but the roof hasn't expired, so they're dinging us for that.
Okay.
These are the kind of things that the MSBA does. If your room, building a vocational school is a lot harder than building an elementary school.
Absolutely.
It's twice the building for the same amount of kids. So what happens is you have large shop space, classroom space, in the size predicament comes into call. They'll call you and say, no, we're just not gonna give you every square foot of that, like you said. But at that point, we have set designs. There are set parameters for vocational schools. The MSBA doesn't have anybody on the vocational side sitting on their committee. So this is straight traditional learning, making the decisions for a vocational school.
Yep.
There's a bill up on the House right now that they're debating. We're trying to get some vocational expertise on the MSBA so everybody else can further understand the dilemma we go through trying to build this building. We did the same thing with you. We went from a 6-inch floor to a 4-inch floor, saved millions of dollars. We lowered our kick walls down to 4 feet because we figured that's where a backpack's gonna hit. We were doing the same exact stuff. But think about the sheer magnitude of technology we have to add. It's 10 times what you have in your building. They don't pay for all of it.
Yeah.
There's just so many small little things. Our boilers are only 10 years old. We asked, can we transfer them over? Nope. Can't bring a 10-year-old boiler over, because by the time you get done building it, it'll be 13 years older. It's only 7 years from its life expectancy.
Right.
So, again, there's another mark against you, but you still have to put a boiler in. And you still have boilers that have life expectancy in them. So it's not a perfect world. We have worked with them, we've done a lot of asking, but frequently they come back and just go, we'll make a decision, no.
Yeah.
And it's not anything we can go back and ask again. They just, they tell you that hopefully you have enough built in that you'll finish early and you'll finish, ahead of schedule and under budget, and you'll return some money. And which is what our goal is, by the way. You probably had a better idea what was on the hill when you built the elementary school. We have no idea necessarily what's on the hill behind us. There's a solar array there. We only dug down far enough to see where the solar array is gonna sit. So site work uses a lot of it. That costs, they cap it, but we put in enough buffer, hopefully that it's gonna work out for
Right.
us.
Yeah, I know site work is one thing that was capped, and we did get very lucky. We thought we knew, and we didn't get dinged on the site work, so we were pretty good. So, and those things I understand.
That report is available, by the way. We can get it to you. You can go through the
I'd like to look at it. I was on the
1,000
building committee for most
Sure.
of the projects in town, and I've read those a few times. I guess it's choices, and I understand the choices. I feel that, for instance, we're not talking about redoing our illegal track that we can't, well, not illegal, but we can't run track meets on it because it doesn't meet conformity. You know that. You've got the same issue.
I grew up here.
Yeah, I know. I know you
fell
did.
down on that track.
I know. My kids ran in
We've
the
all
halls, and then they go someplace else for all their track meets when they ran track. The football field, we're not touching any of those fields as we start getting into our high school project that's coming up.
So,
but
one
I mean-
problem we have while we're building this
Yeah.
project is we're doing it on-site with an existing building.
Yeah.
The reason those fields get rebuilt is because that's where we're storing everything.
That's your laydown yard.
That's
Yeah.
our laydown yard, because to truck it off-site is millions and millions of dollars. So we'll make the call to go in there. Another problem, so if you're not familiar with our facility, when Tri-County was built, back in '74, it was a mountaintop, and they literally blasted the big rocks and rolled them down the hill and just filled in over them. So constantly, every couple of years, we develop a sinkhole.
Yeah.
Whether it's in the track, in the baseball field, baseball's not that bad. Track, football field, these huge sinkholes roll in, we roll a concrete truck up, fill it back in, cover it over, we can use it for another couple of years. Because the site, back then, that's how site work was done. We're addressing some of those problems. It's a safety issue. At some point, somebody's gonna get hurt if you leave it the way it is. But two, we are gonna beat it up while we move hundreds of thousands of yards of rock, stone, dirt. move parking lots all over the place. So,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying with that, yeah. All right, I'm going to open up for any questions up here if anybody's thought of anything. If not, I'll go to the audience.
You got something? No. I have a question that I've been asked by several people, and the new building is, I don't know, is it 5 times the size? What's the?
it's smaller.
It's smaller. There's a rumor going around that the new building is going to offer a lot of the same opportunities for classes that the schools are offering. So it's more of a competition than it's been in the past. Is there any truth to that?
We offer exactly the same classes Millis High School offers. Because at Tri-County, you have your traditional learning, so you pass your MCAS to graduate from through the state, but we also teach your vocational. That's why it's so large. You literally, 1 week you're in traditional learning, the next week you're in your shop for a week. I don't know that it's a competition. We don't offer as many advanced placement classes. Our goal is not to send every child to college. We do send quite a few to college, but that's not our goal. Our goal is to teach them a trade. You know, when I went to Millis, they had metal shop, wood shop,
Tomac?
home ec. I still have that bear. It's in my mother's house. I guess, you know, Tri-County is that, but it's on steroids. It's, you know, they're learning a trade. They can come out and go to work. They come out with a certificate. They come out with college credits.
So is the same curriculum, you're saying it's smaller, so what, is it comparable, the curriculum that you intend to offer in 2027 or 2028, is it going to be comparable to what you're offering today?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And we always look, we have many groups that business people that come in quarterly and discuss trends in the economy, trying to find what's the best for us right now. I can tell you that for the last 2 years, the #1 shop request was carpentry. A couple years ago, it was medical assisting. It moves all around. Engineering has always banged out since we put it together, our advanced engineering program. The purpose of Tri-County is to remind us that 50% of the people in the trades today are 50 years or older and retiring in the next 10 years. We're supposed to refill that group. This new building will help us get students there and get them prepared to come out, because when I'm 70 and I need a plumber, I can't wait 4 months for a plumber, and that's where we're heading.
So
Okay.
towards that end, go ahead.
Just one final question. This started in 2019, it's the end of 2023. Is there no mechanism for when you started this? I mean, I wasn't here then. Did we know about it? Did you know about it in 20?
We started hearing about it,
But is there no mechanism for the 11 towns that are involved? And I'm not saying open it up and let us, you know, build your building for you, but to have been in on this process, because it seems like it's a surprise.
I'd like to speak to that. Jane Harden, I'm the Millis rep. As I became aware of this project, I let the the select board know and the finance committee know that this was coming down the road. And I sent information as I had it. We had to wait as a committee because we're working with the MSBA, and I personally don't like the fact that we don't find out about their decision until August, this past August of '23. But I have made a point to keep the committees, I think Joyce could even bear me out, that I made a point to keep the committees aware of this coming down the pike. So I think that, and I want to add one more thing, as someone who has been a college professor, and I know I've said this before, but I like to brag a little bit about the programs. One night at school committee not too long ago, we had members of, what's the name of that group that has the NASA connection? The Hunch group. We had a group of kids in the Hunch program come to present to the school committee, and they had these projects that were going to be affiliated with NASA. Several of the students' projects, I think, actually made it all the way to the final, cut down, if you will, And one in particular really impressed me where they had the combination of the medical kids and then engineering kids, and they created some sort of way to do like a blood drip or whatever, working against gravity. I mean, it was mind-blowing to me. It was something that I would expect to see someone as a freshman or sophomore at MIT doing. So even though maybe not everybody's going to college, I have to say the quality of the things I've seen there, my eyes have been opened and been incredibly impressed with what is offered there. To honestly, now I don't want to go back in time because that scares me, but if I was going to go through high school again today, I would choose to go to Tri-County. And that's from someone who went straight through the traditional program, 4 years of college, graduate school plus. And I've been very impressed with what I've seen, both on the academic side and the vocational side.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, yeah, and go ahead if you
Well, I'm not questioning that. I appreciate that. And I also appreciate that you reported back, but we were fortunate you're on this board. But what about the other 10 towns? Did people report to them during this whole process?
We've always kept in touch with all the town clerks and select boards, but
Okay.
early on when this happens, you just aren't sure how it goes.
Okay.
We had never dealt with MSBA. We hope to never deal with them again. It happens on it's their system,
No, I
their
know that,
rules,
I know
their
that.
timeline.
I do appreciate that.
and-
My only question
Right.
is that it just seems like it's 2019, just even having somebody just, I don't know, just observe.
They are
Yeah.
very slow
Yeah.
until they get going very fast.
Okay.
So I don't
When-
think
once
there were
you
any
get
hard
accepted,
numbers before.
right.
Because, so I
I
knew
get
there was a
that.
project,
Oh.
but we didn't have numbers
Right.
behind it up until,
In-
well, when they presented for us a few months ago.
Back in
So
April.
the
Right.
Back in
process,
April,
the
yeah.
original process is, we have to show them what it would cost to repair the existing building. So the number that came up with was $160 million, no reimbursement to leave the building the way it is. So no sprinklers, no security, just
Not
meet,
ADA compliant.
not even close to ADA compliant. Then they ask you to do addition and renovation. So we had 5 different versions of addition and renovation, and then we had 3 versions of new building. And then you just start whittling away. So addition renovation looked great. So I was like, this is good. This is a number, it's a lot, but it's fine. New building is ridiculous. No, we're not doing that. But then as you start to have the engineers come in and the designers come in, and they start telling you exactly what you have without even tearing a wall down. They did do some preliminary looks through walls and floors and whatnot. That number just starts creeping up, creeping up, creeping up. And then they start looking at the new building and they start coming up with strategic plans on how to buy product early, set packets in order, keep costs down. It starts coming down. When all of a sudden, towards the very end, we were within 10%. We talked to a number of different school districts and they said, do not do an addition renovation. Within 5 years, you're gonna find out stuff falls apart. They're like, if you're that close, make a call. So,
Okay.
not on my best judgment, against what I was brought up to believe, because I know it's our money.
Yep.
But this building's lasted 50 years, and it didn't cost anybody a penny. So we're hoping to build a building that's gonna last 50 years.
Yeah.
It
We
cost
won't come
us a
back and
lot.
ask for money. Well, they only last about 50 now. It's not like, this building is how old? They don't build them like this anymore. Or if they built a building like this today, it would be $1.5 billion, so.
Yeah, I just have one question to go back to what Ellen opened with. So what percentage do go on to the college and which percentage do go into the trades?
Just about 50% go to either a 2 or a 4-year college. Doesn't mean they don't go in the trades, but they,
Yeah.
50%.
And then the trades are the other 50%, or
Correct.
some must be military, some must not go anywhere.
We
But,
do
yeah,
tend to send quite a few children to the
Yeah.
military.
So, around 50%.
Which is still a trade.
Yeah. Oh, it is. I don't disagree. I'm just saying that going into the, okay, I think that, I think it's evolved to more than what it was when it started. It's not a VOTEC school directly. That's a critical piece of it, but half the kids are competing at the high-end colleges, as you pointed out. So
We have
yeah,
sent some
yeah.
children to some of the better colleges
yeah,
around here.
Yeah. I know a few of my son's friends went there and ended up in good engineering schools. Yeah, so,
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call our advanced manufacturing manufacturing as much as it's an engineering program.
Yeah, well, they ended up getting accepted in some very good engineering
Oh,
colleges straight out of there. So it's a good college prep program, too. Okay.
Craig, I do have a question.
yeah.
And you might even be able to answer it, actually. So, if this fails, what happens then? Is there a process to go back with a secondary plan with the MSBA, or is that money lost?
So if it ultimately failed, the money that the school has spent is lost, and the number of years and the money we spent with consultants and engineers and architects, yes. The mechanism says if the vote fails, then we are given a period of time to re-educate and try again.
With the same plan?
With the same plan. If that indeed failed, what will happen is it will trigger the repair module, the very first one that a number of years ago was $160 million. None of that is reimbursable, and that will become, we'll just bill you each year.
Yeah.
Because it's work that has to be done. So ultimately, you could get an assessment well greater than $450,000 in a given year, depending on what they have to do. It's not the best alternative. Once you tear open an old building, you now have to bring it to code. We're not even close to code. It won't be good.
So you don't get to come back with a scaled-down version, you just reduce the money a little bit?
Correct.
Well,
Because the MSBA just says, you have this project already, we've approved this project.
Oh, I
We
get it.
could always come back
with a,
for less money,
but
but
start it all over again.
similar, but they're gonna also come back and look at it again, and they're gonna use the same exact formula to decide how much money we get. There are schools, I mean, I've been sitting through a lot of MSBA meetings, and there are schools that can't get the votes through, and then they have to back out of the program. There was another town recently that, select board, that changed their mind abruptly, and their decision was based on, if we do it now at 285, great. If we wait 6 or 8 or 9 years, it's gonna be 350. Escalation is terrible right now. I mean, if the economy crashed, and it would help, it'd be bad and it'd be good at the same time, but that's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah, and that's why we got the Clyde Brown, we got on the list because another town failed on their override, and they had the spot, and we were next up, so they called us with 90-something days left to make the decision, if we wanted to go for it or not.
We had been turned down 4 times.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they're like,
Yep.
yep, you're in. And we knew, so there were 26 vocational schools all built roughly at the same time in the early to mid-'70s. They were all paid for by the federal government or the state. They were all the same age, and they're all falling apart at the same time. A number have been done, a number are in the pipelines already, and there are more to come. It's a problem. And we've been knocking on doors and asking for more money, and hopefully there's a chance something may come along later on. They just passed a bill. They didn't pass a bill. They voted one down that we're not gonna get money, because we're already locked in no matter what happens. Once the MSBA decides on a price, that's your price. There's a couple more that are out there that could send some money to us, but we won't know until the end.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't bet on any of it. I mean, we're evaluating a $285 million project, $200 million from the towns, 85 from MSBA, and that's the project. Any discussion of significant changes from the feds or the state is just clouding the issue. If it comes in, that's great,
Great.
but I'm not willing to.
It feels like everybody's being offered the same $3 billion.
Yeah.
Here, but
Yeah.
it equals $14 billion.
Yeah. I'll take questions from, any other questions up
Nope.
here? Okay, I'll take questions from the audience.
Good evening, Pete Ruby, 8 Rose Road, through the chair. We've been told that the Millis population is currently around 38 students, but it's been as high as 60. Could you comment on the total capacity of students for the new school, as well as 2 other, inline questions of how much the total population varies, say, for the last 5 or 10 years, and how much you anticipate the school population increasing once you have a brand-new shiny facility? Thank you.
Well, we'll start with, it won't increase 1 student when it's brand new. It's capped at 1,000. The MSBA does not pay for future, it pays for present. And we are at capacity right now. the amount of students that come from any particular town. Each town is allotted X amount. I don't know what that number is. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, not all of our communities use the students they're allotted, so they go back into the pool. and-
Each town has a cap,
Not really a cap, but,
an
you know,
allotment?
well, it's based on the student enrollment in the communities. So, but we don't, you know, if we look at the population, and we were below 900 2 years ago. We're at 939 last year. We're capped at 1,000 students. But demographically, when I mentioned Sherborne has 1 student.
Right.
Right. So if we have more students that applied from Millis, and they get in this pool of applicants, Millis could see an increase. Millis has had a decrease of 13 students.
Can you
the
go
year
back to
before.
the allotment?
It's really, it's
Explain
not really
that.
allotment, it's based on our, getting the flow of students and the applicants. It's based on a process, an enrollment process, that, students have to apply.
You're making it muddier.
Yeah,
for
what
me.
would be
Go
the,
ahead.
theoretically, I mean, because I mean, my fear is we get, 200 of them going. Is there a cap that we can expect, or is that cap, I mean, not a hard, I guess the question is 38 now, is 60 reasonable, or could I all of a sudden have 200 going at some point? Because that's deals off.
Scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you had 51
Congratulations, you're running.
2 years ago.
Yeah, no, I know
And you're
we've been close
38.
to 60
So
at
it
some
does-
point, I thought, yeah.
It does fluctuate, but you have to
Yeah.
look at the number of students you have in your
Yeah.
school system. I mean, the fact.
So that's how your cap works, it takes a percentage of the number in our school system?
And maybe Dana would, Dana is probably more.
Because this is
I
a very,
don't know
this
that-
isn't a hypothetical problem
Right,
for
right,
us.
right,
This-
right.
This puts brackets around our
Everybody
problem,
wants
you
to know
know?
what's shiny and new.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I wouldn't know how bad it can get financially,
Yes.
you know? Yeah.
I don't know the number. I can speak sort of.
Principal.
Principal, sorry, Dana Walsh, principal, Tri-County. I don't know the number, I can speak sort of proportionally, sort of
Yeah.
almost helps to think proportionally that towns get a certain number of seats. I can say in my experience at Tri-County, which isn't the scientific answer that you probably are looking for, that I've never had an experience where we've capped students from a town, but I've never had an experience where we have also, we have some towns who are larger who send more students, but we've never capped students from a town and disallowed enrollment from any particular town.
So so is it the total population of Millis, or just, what is your grade, 9 through 12?
9 through 12.
So 9 through 12, what do we have, 300 and something students?
Probably a bit more than that, but not much more.
Not much
Yeah.
more. So say we have 400 students,
Yeah.
what would our enrollment number be, capped at? Is that a
I
question?
don't think they
No, it's
can say
not.
that.
We don't necessarily cap, but you're probably gonna be allotted at least 10%, correct, of the applicants?
Oh, we're allotted.
For that group.
Why don't
Okay.
they call
Well,
it a
that's
cap?
not
Because it can go
allotted.
over the allotment,
Right. Now, so.
if somebody else doesn't use their allotment.
Exactly.
Okay, so what would
It
our
fluctuates.
allotment be if it were 400?
400 applicants? Or
No,
400
400
students.
Yeah.
If you just take 11 towns, you got
Yeah, I mean, I'm
10%.
not sure that there's an actual allotment. It is based on applicants, and there's a process that we go through when students apply, and that's
Okay, what's-
each town.
Okay, what's the process?
You want to talk to the?
So most students apply in 8th grade for
Yep.
admission to Tri-County, right? They go through a process where they're scored based on an interview, based on attendance, based on discipline, and based on their grades. We make an acceptance based on that. Students receive a score, and then students are accepted into Tri-County by rank order of that score. We have those 11 towns who are in-district students, and we fill all of our seats with those in-district students, except in the rare case where we don't fill our seats, and then we can take out-of-district students. But that's very rare. And again, last year's freshman class was over-enrolled, and this year's freshman class we just hit enrollment with.
And so, because you have to cover $12.5 million of interest and principal each year on the loan, the borrowing, if you have 1,000 kids, it's, 12,500. If it's less than that, you're going to move that number up because you still have to cover that same nut regardless of the enrollment. You always have to cover your interest and principal, so that number can fluctuate based on actual enrollment too. It's not a direct per student. What is tuition right now, just out of curiosity?
It's about 17.3. Our out-of-district students pay 19.3.
Okay, 17.3, and if you're fully
And that-
enrolled, it's about 12,500 additional. So about 20, almost $30,000, if this passes, is what tuition would be hit per student? I mean, I'm just, it's a number, I'm not making a judgment call on the number. I'm
Yeah, and
just
it is
putting
based
out
on
there.
the Chapter 70 formula, the same way you were allotted Chapter 70 funding for your.
No, but
town.
I mean, but we get a bill
Right.
every year from you
Right.
guys, and if it's, so the 17.3 is what you bill us, or is that something?
But that is based on required minimum contributions, that is based on the Chapter 70 formula. So that it's only this additional amount, which is capital, which is at per student. Your operating assessment is based on the Chapter 70 formula.
Well, our operating assessment varies each year based on enrollment.
And enrollment. The dollars follow the students, so.
Right, so is Millis transferring 17,500 per student right now, basically?
That's Millis's average.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
different averages for different
So
communities.
that's what I'm trying to
based on
find out.
enrollment.
So next year with this, it will be almost 30,000, not next year, but in 3 years or 4 years. 5 years, thank you, keep me honest. When it hits the books, it'll be, yeah.
It's a lot farther down the road.
Once you get, no, I agree with you. It's a ways down the road and people aren't getting that, but the decision's coming up. So in 5 years, it'll be 12,500 plus whatever the new per student. That per student could come down because of new systems, less routine maintenance.
But if it stayed the same,
But if it stayed the same, it'd be 30, yeah. Just about, yeah. 29.8, okay,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Mr. Chair?
yes.
I'm sorry to take us down the rabbit hole on allotments and caps. Really, the nature of my question was whether or not the denominator of total students is going to fall below what it currently is at, and that would drive up cost as well. I would like to hear you say that you're at max, you're at 1,000 students all the time. That's what I'm looking to hear. And, you know, if it's in fact the case. And then my other question is, what is the district's bond rating, and how has that fluctuated? And what financial policies are in place to make sure that that stays where it is for the next 3 or 4 years when you actually have to take the bond?
So 1,000 students, so your first question, that is our goal. We think that is the appropriate number. It's the appropriate number based on the facility we're going to build at 285,000 square feet. The bond rating, we haven't issued debt through the market, so we don't have a bond rating. The bond rating will be determined on an aggregate basis of all the communities together when that happens.
The 1,000 students, that's your goal with the new school? That's also your goal with the present school, correct?
That is correct.
Were you at 1,000 prior to COVID?
No. I thought we were just a smidge below.
1,049 prior to COVID.
Okay, so now you're under, slightly under.
Slightly.
And do you attribute that to COVID?
I would say.
Trying
that we could
people
attribute
bouncing back,
Some
or-
of that, but some of that is related to birth rates, how many eighth grade
Right, right,
students there
Yeah.
are in each of the communities.
Okay.
The awareness
So
of-
I'm
of
I'm
career
comfortable
tech
saying it's probably
education.
going to bounce around 1,000.
1,000.
I don't think there's a lot of
It's always
risk on
somewhere
there.
pretty close.
Yeah, I don't think there's a ton of risk there. I think
Again, if we're not
Yeah.
at capacity in district,
Yeah.
we then open up to out of district, and we always have a waiting list out of district.
yeah.
But you're under right now. Why didn't you fill up to 1,000 with your
It was
out of
during
district?
COVID, because you
No,
can't bring,
the last-
you can't bring students in after 10th grade. You've already been in the program for multiple years, so
Okay.
there's virtually no benefit of being there for a
Yeah.
year. You won't get the certificate, you won't get the
Got
hours,
it.
you'll,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
and we still, believe it or not, there'll be students at 11th grade who just go, I don't wanna do this anymore.
Yeah.
And we occasionally get kids who drop, as long as they do it after October 2nd, we're okay.
I prefer October 1st.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, we'll differ on that. Question? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, my name is Michael Crone, 26 Beach Street. In listening to what you've said tonight, you made a small presentation like this at the FinCom meeting some time ago. It seems bothersome, and it is bothersome to a lot of members of the town that I've spoken with, that this has gone on for 4 years, and that in that 4-year period, we've never been consulted as to what do we want? What size school do we want? How much do we want to spend? How much can we afford to spend? We would never do that in our own community. If we're going to build a new high school, or where we built the Clyde Brown School, or renovate the new high school, we will ask the citizenry, what is best? What can we afford? What makes sense for us? And I have not seen that asked of this citizenry, and I've lived here for 4 years. And I think that's bothersome, and I'd like to know why that's the case.
So I can answer it. You live in a bubble. We're 11 communities. I can't ask, I'll never get an answer. We won't get past go if we just poll all 11 communities. I can tell you that there are some towns that just really want us to rebuild this, and there are some towns that really want us to do nothing. So getting a consensus from everybody, or asking what it should cost based on no experience building one of these, which we didn't have either, becomes a problem. So we're doing the best we can to figure it out. Literally, nobody had the experience of building the building in the first place. It just came in and got plunked down. So when the time comes and MSBA invites you in because you've got so many deficient areas, you just move forward. And they have a system, you know this, they have a system. They tell you, you need an architect, you need an OPM.
Yeah.
Go find an OPM. This is the system to find the OPM. This is the list of OPMs. This is our check sheet on how you decide who is an OPM. Now you find an architect. Same, it's very formulaic, set down by the state. If we were building it on our own, it probably would be very different. But because the state has invited us in and they're making that payment, they kind of control it, and that's why it happens like that.
When were you invited in by MSBA?
2019, we were invited in to do the preliminary work.
Okay. And you don't have to have that first vote that the towns do to
No.
fund that first work and all that?
No,
yeah.
because it's out
Right.
of pocket.
It's a different
Right.
source.
And like I said, we spend a considerable amount of money to get to this point. If we didn't have money at that point, we probably wouldn't have got off the ground, I would suspect. Because at that point, we would have come back and every town would have said no, and the building would continue to crumble until it's to the point. And I'd like to,
Yeah.
side note, today, the building inspector was up at the school looking around and they condemned our bleachers. They've been washed out underneath. He's like, you can't put people around this
Oh, at the fields,
in
yeah.
the fields.
Yeah.
I'd like to just add the information about, the town people not being informed. I just want to say there have been a number of community meetings about this. They've been advertised, they've been put on Millis Forum. I let boards know. It's really hard to know how to get the word out as much as you would like it to get out. So for that, I will take some responsibility. But every time there was a community meeting, and there have been a number offered at Tri-County, I tried to make sure people were informed. So if you were not finding out about that, my apologies, but every effort on my part was made to let people know those meetings were open to the public, and we were inviting people in to voice their opinion. In fact, there are a number of people in this room that attended several of those meetings, so thank you.
Joyce Boyardi, 206 Orchard Street. Hi. You mentioned about the courses and that they're the same as what Millis
The same
offers.
traditional.
Same.
Academic.
No, I understand that. Is there band? Is there chorus? I mean, is there any?
Curricular, those are not.
No, I'm just asking because I'm trying to compare our school to what you're offering and what's different, and that's all. Thank you.
Hi.
So no, we do not offer band, we don't offer chorus. We do offer a number of extracurricular activities that you'd find in a traditional comprehensive high school.
Okay. Is there anything that going to the Tri-County that would not afford somebody when they graduate a college or I know that you've got a lot of, so
So we have, again, we have 16 different programs. Some of our programs, our students come out fully licensed in their field. So the students who participate in the cosmetology program, if they pass their board exam, they graduate from Tri-County prepared to enter right into the world of work. Some of our plumbing students come out with a couple of levels of their apprenticeship under their belt so that they still have to do the same training as plumbers coming from high school to the industry, but they're a few steps ahead. And then some of our other programs are a little bit more college track. So our engineering students more likely have to follow a college track if they want to stay with a traditional engineering field, but they're ahead of the game in terms of, particularly if they started a community college, and there are some articulation agreements with those community colleges and waiving some of the coursework that's demanded
Excuse me, I'm
for
going
them.
I don't want to get into a discussion of VOTEC versus regular ed. I'm more concerned about the project. It's all very informative, don't get me wrong.
No,
We've
my
got about
question-
5 more minutes left on this.
The
Yeah.
reason I asked is you mentioned about our 400 students going to Tri-County, so I'm just questioning if that, if say, our 400 students wanted to go,
Let
what
me
would
just
they
be clear, I was using
missing?
400 as a hyperbolic
I
statement
understand
as
that.
how the worst possible case scenario. I believe it's going to be between 50 and 80, but go ahead, Joyce.
No,
Yeah.
but I
I
understand.
don't want word getting out that said 400 students are going.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is if our 400 chose to exodus and go to Tri-County, basically they would be, the things that would be eliminated, or they would not, would be some of the extracurricular.
Correct.
Do you offer extracurricular? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Please, and we're going to do right up until about 8 o'clock, so,
Keep it short.
yeah. Finish strong.
John Laura, 247 Pleasant Street, also on the FinCom committee. If we could go back down to the allotment and the assessment and using the 1,000 number as a benchmark, what has been the trend over the last, whatever you want, 5, 10, 15, 20 years of enrollment? And if it were to pass and there's a new building, is that 1,000 enrollment capped? So if Millis has students and you're at 1,000 and there's 5 more Millis students that want to go in, they would be denied. Is that a true statement? And elaborate around those points.
So, maybe yes, maybe no. I don't have the real answer, the whole answer, because it's fluid. Again, we'll be capped at 1,000. Sometimes we bring in a few more because we know we're gonna lose some students.
But we won't leave seats empty because X number of students from North Attleboro have X number of seats. We won't leave those seats empty and deny them to Millis students if there are those seats to be had.
I can also say that the Department of Education has, in front of them, they're trying to make entry to vocational schools a lottery based on zip code and demographics. We're vehemently against that. We don't think it'll be good for the school, just bringing in random students.
You mean outside of the 11 towns?
No, in the 11 communities, but
okay.
again, right now, we accept based on grades, attitude, attendance. You have to have reasonable grades, you have to have good attendance and not be trouble. Again, none of that precludes you from getting in. Any one of those being off will trigger a personal interview, and you'll get to explain why you don't get good grades, don't go to school, and you're a problem. Our sped rate is almost 30%, which is probably double Millis. So we accept everybody. But if we go to a lottery-based system, then based on, the demographics of Millis, kids from North Attleboro might be getting in, and you may be eliminated. Not completely, but
I understand you said sped's 30%,
Yeah.
but are any of those out-of-district placement, 5 days a week in residential facilities at $150,000 a head? I would take 30% of our population if they were all IEP'd in the classroom. It's the 10,
Oh, we
15,
understand.
20
Yeah,
kids
yeah.
that can push us at 100,000 plus a child that you don't take,
Yeah.
that we get. It's the attitude problems that you get to interview out that we keep.
Well, you don't
It's-
always get to interview them out.
Well, you, theoretically you can. We don't get a lot of the luxuries.
Right.
And I wasn't even bringing it up, but SPED's a big thing. 30% of kids on IEPs is way different than 30% of the kids that go to a school in Pennsylvania that you transport back and forth every week. The cost on those are astronomical. Your costs are
It's
reasonable.
not astronomical.
Just
No, they're
nomical.
not.
They're notable. Let's leave that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I think there's some important
They add to the
differences
budget.
there, that you do get a little bit of, a little bit grace on SPED, even though you have a lot of kids. It's a great program for kids that need that, who are in the SPED, who are using SPED. So I don't begrudge you that at all, but let's be careful when we talk about raw numbers, because I'd like to talk dollars someday. I'll put my 500, 400 kids at the high school up against 1,000 kids there, and we'll see how that plays out, you know? So, but anyway, I think that's it for our time tonight. Do you have any closing words you'd like to give?
No, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here and speak in front of you.
Yeah.
We're an open book.
Yeah.
You can call us, you can invite us down. If you haven't been to the school, come on up, we'll give you a personal tour and you can see what's going on. And we'd appreciate your vote on October 24th.
Okay, and I'll just close by saying we're having, again, 2 ballots on there, because we believe if you're in favor of the project, you need to be in favor of funding the project, because you can't just theoretically, nobody's opposed to special ed, or, I'm sorry, to Tri-County. Nobody's opposed to VOTEC education. It's putting the money where putting your money where your mouth is, so we don't have to make the cuts to the town departments, so that we can have the override and have the funding source available. So I encourage everybody to turn out and vote, however you choose. I'm not advocating a plus, in favor or opposed, but just vote consistently. If you're in favor of the project, please be in favor of paying for the project. October 24th.
October 24th.
Oh.
12 to 8.
Yeah, October 24th, 12 to 8, and would the board like to have another community meeting, coffee hours with, invite them to, I think it would be helpful to get the
A
word out.
less formal,
A less formal, yeah.
gathering, but just for residents who have questions.
Yeah, why don't we try to work something out on that if you
Set
guys
it
are
in, we have a
amenable?
lot of them
Yes.
going on between now and October 24th. We will.
Yeah, this could be a
We'll fit-
daytime meeting too,
Yeah.
possibly.
We'll fit it in.
We were at the Bogastock and, we saw Ellen there.
I got one of your Frisbees.
I gave him my Frisbee.
We didn't have Frisbees with the elementary school.
No, but he got one
We'd
now.
like to get
Those
some
were
sort of a
donated by a
coffee.
businessman.
Sorry, I was
understand.
gonna say, we'd like to get some sort of a coffee where we can hold it maybe down at the senior center and get people
Sure.
that maybe weren't able to come
No,
out in the
that's-
evening
that's
to see
fine.
some of this. I think it would
You
be
bring the
really nice.
coffee, we'll
so
show up.
yes. All right, fair enough.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That was good.
Yeah. Told you I was gonna stop at 8.
You're good. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
All right.
Now you just need to vote to approve the warrant.
Okay, I'm going
Mr. Chair.
to,
Mr. Chair,
I'm going to give just a moment for people to leave. Yes, go ahead.
Needs to.
the FinCom makes a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second? We adjourn. Thank you.
See ya, thank you. Nobody's sticking around, boy.
How to clear a room.
Yeah, take a cucumber. Nobody leaves without a cucumber. Nobody leaves without a cucumber. If you want to continue discussions, please head to the hall so we can move on to the exciting
Take 'em out the hall.
approving the warrant.
Yeah, bring
Yeah,
them.
take them outside. Get,
That's how do you say, how
I
do you
have
say
too
you're at a
many.
meeting in
If
Millis
there's any
without
left,
saying you're in
just to
Millis?
see who,
yeah.
We give out free cucumbers at our select board meetings.
Yeah.
Joyce.
Well, thank you very much.
thank you very much.
All right.
And the rest, everybody
I
else.
may take a cucumber for my horse. They say horses like cucumbers.
Take 3.
Abe would like a cucumber.
I think
All
I
right,
like
I'm
it.
going to make a motion. The next item up is to approve and sign the election warrant. Mike?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packet is the election warrant for a question on a ballot on October 24th, noon to 8, which is the same time as the ballot for the Tri-County project approval in all 11 communities. But this ballot in question would be specific to the town of Millis. The question is, shall the town of Millis be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 and 1/2, so-called, the amounts required to pay the town's allocable share of the bonds issued by the Tri-County Regional Vocational Technical School District to pay costs of designing, constructing, and equipping a new high school to be located at 147 Pond Street in Franklin, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto. So that's the question before the board, to vote to approve the ballot. I know the town clerk is here, if you have any questions for her. So the board would just need to vote to approve that this evening.
I just want to make one important note for anybody who's watching later. I think everybody who cares is in the hall right now. But this will not go to town meeting. Town meeting authorizes the borrowing. This authorizes the payment. So that's why
Correct.
when Millis is the borrowing authority, it goes to town meeting to authorize us to borrow the money. Here, the ballot just authorizes us to collect the money, and the borrowing authority is Tri-County School. So this will only show up on a ballot when we vote it. All right.
Ready?
I'm
I move that the board vote to approve and sign the election warrant for Tuesday, the 24th of October, 2023, as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve and sign the election warrant for Tuesday, October 24th of October, Tuesday, the 24th of October, 2023, as written. Should read those things. Huh? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed unanimously. Thank you for waiting patiently. I tried to give you notice that we would get there at 8 o'clock. I tried to be honest to that. I realized when I looked at the agenda, the second time there was no
Yeah,
chance.
you can sit up
Please,
there.
come up front and have a
Say-
cucumber.
We have Dan American from engineering, Mr. Mushnick, the owner of 10 Acorn, and then Mike Carter, if the board is not aware of who that is. Mike Carter is from GCG. He is our peer review consultant.
Thank you.
I just want to say one thing. First of all, 2 Mushnicks in one night.
That was.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, I just want to say one thing. I just want to disclose that Jeff Mushnick is a distant cousin of mine, and I had a very brief conversation with town council, and he said that it's no problem for me sitting and listening to this proposal. That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, when I started here, my wife's distant cousin, Jimmy Neville, got me on the finance committee, so.
Former select
When I
board
started
member,
working
yes.
up here, the Medfield town administrator referred to Millis as the land of the cousins. So apparently he
dear.
was right in a lot of these cases,
So this isn't going to help, but okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, we have, as stated earlier, we do have Mr. American, Mr. Mushnick here to talk about the project 10 Acorn Street, and we've asked them to come in and discuss this, and we asked Mr. Carter to be here for his comments in regards to the project. So with that, I would turn it over to Mr. American.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Dan Merrickin with Legacy Engineering, here with Jeff Mushnick. 10 Acorn Street is at the end of Hammond Lane. It's this building here, at the intersection of Hammond, Farm, and Acorn. It's the first building on Acorn Street. Presently, there is sewer in Main Street, and the applicant is proposing to extend the sewer down along Hammond Lane to his building at 10 Acorn Street. That building presently has no sewer service, no septic system. It's kind of a tight property. There really isn't room for a septic system. It's commercially zoned land. It's a commercial building. It's used for storage. The applicant would like to get a sewer service to it. It will make the building more useful. I think it'll make our commercial land in Millis, generally speaking, more useful, which is a good thing from a tax perspective. So what we have proposed is a combination of gravity and low-pressure sewer down Hammond Lane. The main and Main Street on the left here is quite deep. It's your main interceptor. It's about 20 feet deep. In their peer review comments, GCG noted that it is technically possible to run gravity down Hammond Lane to the site. The problem with that is that, you know, for a single building essentially, it would be hugely expensive to run gravity. You know, GCG notes that at this point here, we're kind of at the top of Hammond Lane, the sewer would have to be 14 feet deep to make that happen. So what we're asking for you to allow is a more economical and reasonable option, given particularly the amount of flow that we're talking about here, which is quite small. We would come in with a short gravity section, throw a stub out to 1178, which is a project that you guys have previously approved for a sewer connection. So that flow is already accounted for in your current projections. And then we would then propose to run a low-pressure 2-inch sewer force main, 5 feet deep from there down Hammond Lane and to the site. There's a vacant property here at 1130 to 1140 Main Street, so we would put a stub in there. We do run across the frontage of 34 Farm Street, so we would put out a low-pressure stub there. For flow rates, I know GCG commented on this, but you know, the building is a storage building, so for a use like that, Title V flow rates are 15 gallons per person. If you had 2 or 3 people in this building, it would be a big day. So, you know, we figured 45 gallons per day. GCG suggested 1,000. It's okay either way. It's really gonna be a very small amount of flow. And 34 Farm Street is it's basically a contractor's yard. I've been by there a number of times. It doesn't seem like there's anybody at that property very often, so a similarly small amount of flow. And then the vacant piece at 1130 to 1140 Main Street, we don't know what could go there, so that would be something that will come before the board for a connection at a later date. So the flow rates that we're talking about here are a few hundred gallons per day, which is really, it's less than a house, in my view. So the peer review noted a number of technical issues that we can address with no issues. Really, the big question here is, you know, whether our proposal to do this as a combination of gravity and low pressure is acceptable to the board.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Do you want Mr. Carter?
I would,
Anthony?
yes. I was gonna see if they had any questions about
Okay.
this portion of it. I was working my way through.
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Carter, would you like to?
Is
Mike
this something
Mike
where
Carter.
the street will get repaved? I'm sorry. This, you have to dig into the street to do this? Would the street be repaved in those areas?
It would be paved through the trenching. It's my understanding that I think DPW is looking for some contribution from the applicant towards a future repaving of Hammond Lane, and the applicant's absolutely willing to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mike Carter from GCG Associates for the record. As Dan indicated, you know, we reviewed the plan, and probably the biggest thing is whether you want to make them do gravity sewer, which is much more costly. In the past, the town on many projects has had a developer do the gravity. I'll just use a couple examples that I've worked on. Bridge Street, if you remember the big development on Bridge Street, which is much bigger than this project scope-wise, obviously. They ran that sewer by gravity. They came in proposing a force main just like this. And then the other one that I can recall is on Acorn Street, the residential development that they went back out to Farm Street. They ended up running a deep gravity sewer into there. Again, those two projects are different. They're much bigger in size. It's really up to you. The budding properties could connect to this 2-inch force main. You do have these kind of systems on small cul-de-sacs in town that actually the town is actually built that way, where you had a couple lots, 2 or 3 lots for this scenario. You don't really have a huge opportunity to expand the sewer all the way up Acorn Street, so I'll leave that decision up to you. His design is, we made some minor comments that certainly can be addressed. And the flow rate, it's a, you know, if the use is just a storage, there won't be many people there, but if the use changes, then the flow rates will change. You know, that's probably something you want to be conscious of and aware of, that is a possibility. I don't know what's involved to do that, you know. But that's all I have for it to say.
Okay, thank you.
And just for perspective, so the Hickory Hills, we ran sewer up Farm Street, we ran gravity from up Farm Street to the point where Hickory Hills picked it up. But then we ran low pressure
Okay.
down along Farm Street, almost in equidistance from this site as this connection that we're proposing. There's also low pressure on Acorn Street, not very far away, again, about the same distance from here. We looked at those three options and thought that this was probably the better, the easiest of the options.
Just because I'm no expert on this, low pressure is, how does that work?
Low
Without getting
pressure-
into gross
Low
details.
pressure, yeah, so like you have force mains in town. If you
Yeah.
build a municipal pump station,
Okay,
it pumps into probably a 4-inch force main. And that could have higher pressures, and that pumps to some point where it can go by gravity into your gravity
Okay.
system. A low pressure works the same way, except each individual property has a low pressure pump.
okay,
And it's a grinder pump, and it pumps the sewage into the 2-inch force main. And the reason it's called low pressure is because it's low pressures, it's
Yeah.
20 PSI, 30 PSI, something
Got
like
it.
that max. And, these systems are becoming more and more common and more accepted. They work well. So
Okay.
it's an alternate way to do it. It's a newer way to do it compared to gravity. Obviously, it's, given the scale of the project and the building it's trying to connect, it's a much more economical option. I don't know
Right.
that a gravity connection would be economical.
Right, any questions from anybody else on the committee?
No?
Okay. All right, any questions from the audience? There's 3 of you out there. Okay. All right, we'll take a motion on this then.
I make a motion that the board approve the sewer extension permit application for 10 Acorn Street, subject to the recommendation by the town, well, not really, but okay.
The technical recommendation.
The technical recommendation by the town's peer review engineer to provide a written statement from the applicant stating that existing, and do I want that?
No, I would change it.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I would say, well, Mike can speak to it, but I would say it's subject to the recommendation of the town's peer review as listed on the September 20th memo,
As listed on the September 20th
mean-
memo.
Except for the fact that you're
except for the, right.
allowing low pressure.
Right.
If you are allowing low pressure.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me start over.
You're going to have to wing this
Told
one
you
out.
this
Wing
I
it.
told you this one was a little
Watch
a
me
little bit
wing.
squirrely.
I move that the
I warned
board
you.
approve the sewer extension permit application for 10 Acorn Street as applied for, or as requested by Dan Merrickin's letter,
Yeah.
correct?
Legacy and
Subject to the minor modifications, right?
the technical
As
comments.
the technical comments provided by the town's peer review engineer.
Second.
Well done.
I'm reading it for a second.
Don't read that one.
You don't
I
read
know, I'm
that
just seeing what other items were dropped.
It's just that first comment.
Well, the second
Right.
part of it is a written statement from the applicant stating
Yeah,
the
get
existing
rid
and
of that.
proposed building needs to justify. Okay.
So there's a list of technical
Yeah.
comments at the end.
Correct.
Yeah.
About the plans we submitted. Those would all be addressed
Right.
to their satisfaction.
All right, I move that the board approve a low-pressure sewer extension permit application for 10 Acorn Street, subject to the limitations. What word did you use there? Not recommendation, but
Subject to the.
Technical
Technical-
comments.
Technical modifications.
technical modifications by the town's
Suggested
peer
by-
reviewed engineer, period.
Perfect.
All right. Told you I'd get there. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your.
Passed
time.
unanimously. Thank you. Sorry to make you sit through it, but it was your son. He just kept
Thank
going
you.
on and on.
Thank you.
What you gonna do?
Hear his voice when I was
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, brother, sorry.
That's okay.
I was confused. Brothers.
I was gonna say, that was his son, I
No, it
thought.
wasn't.
His brother.
I just
Jeez,
figured
Jeff, he just
family,
aged
family.
you. I know you looked a lot alike, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't know.
It's fine.
That's
You didn't
funny.
introduce him as a cousin.
I know I didn't. I didn't.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, now what else do we have? One day,
So I think that's me.
for one-day alcohol license.
You have before you an application for a one-day special alcohol license. This was submitted by Rich McCarthy on behalf of the Bryce Matthew McCarthy Memorial Foundation. They held a really nice event last year, and I spoke with Oak Grove. They are amenable to this occurring, and actually are excited to have this occur on their property again. It would happen at the outdoor field at Oak Grove on Saturday, October 28th. It's a fundraiser for Bryce's Foundation, and it's from 1 to 5 p.m.
Okay.
Okay.
The only thing is that they do need to have a $1 million liability policy naming the town as an insured.
Okay. We ready?
I'm set.
I move that the board approve the one-day special alcohol license submitted by Rich McCarthy for the Bryce Matthew McCarthy Memorial Foundation fundraiser to be held at Oak Grove Farm on Saturday, October 28th, from 1 to 5 p.m., subject to proof of liquor liability insurance, naming the town as insured in the amount of $1 million.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the one-day special alcohol license submitted by Rich McCarthy for the Bryce Matthews McCarthy Memorial Foundation fundraiser to be held at Oak Grove Farm on Saturday, October 28th from 1 to 5, subject to the proof of liquor liability insurance, naming the town as insured in the amount of $1 million. All in favor?
Aye.
Pass unanimous. Okay,
My favorite part.
liaison updates.
My favorite part. You got anything?
I did go to a school building committee meeting. They talked about the timeline and getting an RPM on board. That was the,
What kind of time frame are they looking at for bringing it to a vote? Do they have a ballpark at all?
yes.
Okay, that'll do.
Did you say RPM? Do you mean OPM?
No, they have the
Or RFP.
OPM, the
RFP
RFP.
for the
the designer.
All right,
Yeah,
for the
Okay,
designer,
thank you.
yeah.
Sorry, I was like, huh? Yeah, what's an RFP?
All right,
I will get that for you.
thank you.
Okay. I skipped 2 because I had other things, but I went to Charles River Pollution Control
What's
meeting.
your favorite?
It is my favorite. It's so sad to say, but it is my favorite. And they went over their budget, and they're within their budget, and they went over, apparently we had 9 hookups for sewer, but I think they were all at the Glen. So nothing to report. And that's it. I'm looking forward to my next one. I haven't had any other than that. What'd you have?
Capital planning. We talked about projects. It's not a huge list of projects coming out right now. A lot of them are familiar. You'll recognize many of them. PFAS plant is on there, so we'll have a robust list together. We're meeting again tomorrow night. So we will, I'll report back again at our next meeting. Keep you updated.
Awesome.
All right. That looks to be everything on the official agenda.
Just the approval of the minutes.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
yeah, go ahead.
9/14.
Minutes. Motion.
Motion. I moved that the board approve the draft minutes for the September 14th, 2023 meeting. Is that what we're up to?
Well,
Except we didn't
we
approve
skipped
last.
some,
Yeah.
so there'll be
So we'll
a
have
few
to
more
add
coming
those.
along.
So we're
Victoria was
almost
not in
current.
when I
Are
was
we
doing
almost-
this, so I didn't
are
know
we
what she
get-
had for a list. So we'll add some more
Are
next
we
week.
almost there?
We're getting
Yeah,
close.
we're very close.
Okay.
Much
We're all
closer than when
done.
we started.
Okay.
Yeah,
You think by the end of 2023 we'll be there?
they're all done. It's just a matter of you guys reading them and approving them at this point. So,
Okay,
Did you make the motion?
I did.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from September 14th, 2023. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Passed unanimously. I move that the board vote to enter an executive session to discuss strategies with respect to potential litigation for dangerous dog decision appeal and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining and contract negotiations for the Mass Coalition of Police Local 171. Aaron?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta pull the board.
Oh, yes.
Both of those are good.
Yes.
Alice? Yes, I'm yes also, passed unanimously. We're going into executive session. We'll adjourn from there. We won't be back in this room.